Afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Wilkinson. I'm the manager of communications and media, Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. I'd first like to begin by acknowledging that we are on traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Dene, Dakota, Saulteaux, and on the homelands of the Métis Nation. We respect and honor the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land and reaffirm our relationship with one another. Today, Premier Scott Moe, along with SPSA President and Fire Commissioner Marlo Pritchard and SPSA Vice President of Operations Steve Roberts, will provide an overview of the wildfires in the province. I would like to note that we are recording the call and live streaming on the Premier's Facebook page. And later today, we'll be posting this video recording on our YouTube and Facebook page at SPSA. After our speakers, members of the media will have the opportunity to ask one question and one follow-up at a time. With that, I will turn it over to the Premier for our first update.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us here today to discuss what is a very serious situation in the province of Saskatchewan, in particular Saskatchewan, with the over 200 wildfires that we have had this spring, with just a significant lack of moisture in areas of our province. To date, 17 of those are active, and we've had to evacuate and support the evacuation of about 15 communities. Just looking ahead to the weather forecast, it doesn't look good. It looks like it is going to further deteriorate. There's no rain in the forecast. And so today, what we are here to discuss with Marlo Pritchard and Steve Roberts and the Minister of Government Relations, Eric Schmaltz, is really preparing our communities, preparing Saskatchewan residents, and preparing our province for what may arrive over the course of the next number of days and over the course of the foreseeable future, and how we are going to best work as a province to support our wildland firefighters that are working so hard in their communities, and to support the residents of those communities that may be evacuated or may be faced with fires in their region of the province. So that begins with today we're declaring a provincial wildfire state of emergency. Under that wildfire state of emergency are a number of initiatives then that we may have to use over the days ahead to further support the wildland fire suppression and firefighter activities that are happening in the north, further support those residents that are evacuated today or may have to be evacuated in the days ahead. And I'll discuss a little bit more about that towards the end, as well as Marlo and Steve will discuss some of the current situation and some of where we're going and how we can best support Saskatchewan residents in the next while. But what I would just close in these opening comments with saying is it's a very serious situation that we're faced with in Saskatchewan. We do need some rainfall. We need that sooner rather than later. And in light of that not being in the forecast, we most certainly are putting in place every measure possible to prepare our province, prepare our communities, and prepare those that live in our northern communities that are threatened by these wildfires in the days ahead. So, Marlo, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Cleaver. Good afternoon, everyone. Do you want to move the mics over? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Premier mentioned, there is a provincial state of emergency been declared. That state of emergency will be in effect for 14 days and can be extended if necessary. The SPSA is committed to providing daily updates on the current wildfire situation, so we will be moving forward for daily media briefs, probably most of them virtual, but we'll play that by ear as we move forward. In regards to a wildfire overview, and this is as of 11:30 this morning, we have 17 active wildfires. Of those active, 3 are categorized as contained, 8 are not contained, 5 are ongoing assessment, and 1 is listed as protecting values. To date, Saskatchewan has had 206 wildfires, which is well over 5-year average of 125. And we are currently experiencing high daytime temperatures and warm evening temperatures, which is not consistent with the wildfire suppression activities and efforts. And it also is happening that the wildfires are not slowing down like we're used to at night. We're also, as the Premier mentioned, over the next couple of days, we're anticipating high temperatures and winds, which is again going to fuel the situation and cause some extreme fire behavior on the landscape. In regards to our fires of note, J. Smith Fire, north of Mississippi. It's on the highway north of Larange. Approximate size is 33,000 hectares. It was going east toward Rabbit Lake, and we did do a successful backburn last night, but due to smoke, we have not been able to get back into the community to determine what the current situation is. The Pelican 2 fire, which is close to Pelican Narrows, it's approximately 55,873 hectares. It's considered not contained. Staff are still within the community working on hotspots and working on value protection. Club fire north of Creighton, it's approximately 25,000 hectares. That's about 2,300 hectares on the Saskatchewan side of the border, about 18,000 hectares on Manitoba. The fire activity yesterday was very aggressive. Crews did have to retreat due to the intensity of fires, and smoke has been an issue in regards to our activities today. The Wolf Fire in our beach is 29,400 hectares, again not contained. That is the fire near the Foran mine site, which we have value protection on. The Shoe Fire, Lower Fishing Lakes, the Lower Fishing Lakes and the Narrow Hills Provincial Park, approximately 216,000 hectares. It is not contained. We have had multiple structures in East Trout Lake area lost. That is still being worked on to determine that the area and the size of the structures that we have lost and how many. We have crews still in the area, both in East Trout Lake and Lower Fishing Lake. Significant efforts are still ongoing to manage and contain and fight that fire. As you can tell by the size of it, this is a very difficult fire to work on. Issue Fire, west of Larange, 55,767 hectares. That's the one near Hall Lake, not contained. Pitch Fire near Waiaquin, size is approximately 2,500 hectares. That resulted in the evacuation of Waiaquin and impacts Highway 2. All these fires are currently being actioned by ground assets, air assets, and heavy equipment to protect values and prevent further damage the best that we can. As a reminder, we are expecting a new Q400 air tanker at the end of this month, and we will get that up and operational as fast as we can. Currently, we are have external supports, both coming and on ground. Currently, we have aircraft from Quebec and Alaska. We have ground resources from Nova Scotia and PEI that are committed to attending here very quickly, and Steve will have more detail on that. Currently, there are 15 evacuations within the province, and the SPSA is currently supporting 52 people from Rabbit Lake, Whalen Bay, Pickerel Lake, and Little Black Bear in Prince Albert, and we're supporting them in Prince Albert, Nipawin, and offering support for those that are staying with family and friends. We're also expecting to be supporting up to 400 individuals from Creighton, Jan Lake, and Denair Beach, and they will be going to Weyburn, Estevan, and I believe it's also some going to Nipawin. The communities that are evacuated that are not being SPSA supported, but are supported either through their own communities or through the Red Cross or other third-party providers are Hall Lake, Flin Flon, East Trout Lake Subdivision, Narrow Hills Provincial Park, Resort Village of Candle Lake, Sturgeon Weir, Shamble Lake, Birch Portage First Nation, and Waiaquin as of last night. In regards to the last media brief, we had some conversation around Candle Lake Fire Guard. Since that briefing, the SPSA has had personnel working with Candle Lake community leadership. We've had mitigation specialists in the community, and we are currently working on establishing a fire guard around that community. That work started yesterday afternoon and will go until completed. Today, the SPSA is also launching a dedicated toll-free phone line for people who have general questions about the wildfire situation in Saskatchewan. The 559-5502 line will be staffed from 8 to 8 by operators who will be able to answer most questions. However, areas of active wildfire, it will be unlikely that operators will be able to provide details, but we will try to get as much information to you as possible. People are encouraged to access the latest and most accurate information on the wildfire situation at saskpublicsafety.ca and to sign up for our emergency alerts through Sask Alert. I also want to just take a moment about drones. We'd like to remind residents to stay away from the fire at this time and let first responders do their job. Canadian law requires all drone pilots to fly according to the Canadian aviation regulations, which state that only someone with permission can fly over a wildfire or within 9.3 kilometers of a wildfire. We have had a recent incident within the province, but I will just mention that there was an incident in California in January where a drone did hit a tanker and caused significant damage. So again, just to remind everybody to stay away from those areas as we're working. Numerous highways are closed or have restricted access, so please check the highway hotline information because that situation can change fairly quickly. In regards to asset loss, as of today, we know or have confirmed 44 values or 44 structures have been lost to the wildfires, but we're still assessing other areas. And if anyone does spot wildfires or grass fires, please call 911. And we will encourage anybody that has property owners that are not directly affected by wildfires at this time to fire smart their home or yards. Again, simple cost-free tasks of pruning dead trees and keeping your yard free of debris all helps in situations like this. I also want to apologize for the Sask Alert error that went out last night. We sent an alert for evacuation, immediate evacuation. The information was correct, but the map was not. It included Prince Albert. And so I know that caused angst for some individuals. So again, we're doing a review so that to make sure that that does not happen again. And then finally, I really want to acknowledge the great work that our wildland firefighters, community volunteers, volunteer fire departments are doing. It is really a all hands on deck approach. And I really, really want to thank individuals in the communities. I was on the road yesterday, and I know that there's members of the community that are supporting our staff, supplying sleeping arrangements, bringing food to the bases, our IMTs. That is so greatly appreciated to the women and men that are doing the hard work in the trees and the forests. So I really want to acknowledge that. It's really going to be an effort all of us need to pull together to get through this over the next days, weeks. But we will get through this, but we have to do it together. So again, thank you. And with that, I will turn it back to
Steve, do you have
just a couple of items I can.
sorry. CBC.
So just to add to the summary, we mentioned getting support from our mutual aid partners. So in addition to what is already in the province, we will receive support right from British Columbia, right through the Maritimes are already mobilizing to come to Saskatchewan. And that includes resources, ground crew resources, and fire equipment is being mobilized to come into the province to augment our efforts. On any of these fires where there's opportunity to engage more equipment and more manpower, we will do so whenever safe. So that is a due consideration for all these fires, as much as we have some resources available until they can be deployed in a safe manner. In some of these cases, we will have to do indirect attack and other methods. I'd like to remind folks that we currently have a provincial fire ban, which means absolutely no open fires, no fireworks at this time. And currently we are also considering as a province to look at a UTV, ATV restriction, as some of these human caused fires are indeed caused by those vehicles. And at this point, we would prefer that people are not out in the forest in these extremely dry hazard conditions.
You, Mr. Pritchard and Mr. Roberts. So before we go into questions, I'll just like to remind those of you who are on Teams We ask that you use the raise hand function on Teams or by commenting in the chat. If you're phoning in, you'll need to press *5 to raise your hand. You also need to press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And if there are additional questions afterwards, please send them to the SPSA's immediate inbox, which is media.spsa@gov.sk.ca. So we'll first begin questions with those reporters in the room. If you raise your hand, get one question and one follow-up.
Alexander Silverman with CB You spoke to the fact that things could get worse in the coming days with these weather conditions. I'm curious what evacuation plans or resources are being considered for some of these more isolated communities. We heard some of the First Nations leaders talk about the fact that their communities are getting boxed in by a fire. And we know many of these communities only have one road in and out. And there's also, of course, this fire impacting Highway 2 main way in and out of La Ronge. So what plans or resources are being considered for some of these more isolated communities if they do need to be evacuated?
So there's you're exactly right. And I think first, as you said, thank you to many of the communities I met with a number this morning. Met with and talked to on the telephone. A number of community leaders that have already been evacuated in some cases and are at risk of being evacuated. As Minister Schmaltz been working with a number of farming communities. So there are ways, means to evacuate various communities. We've been through this in the Northwest a couple of years ago. 10 years ago, in 2015, we were in this very room giving a similar briefing. And so there are procedures that the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency has in place to support communities in their evacuation plans, to work alongside agencies like the Red Cross, for example, in supporting those evacuees, and working alongside many Indigenous communities as well, as many of those communities are evacuated. And speaking with Chief BD this morning, Peter Valentine, all but one of the Peter Valentine communities have been evacuated as we are here today. And so there's a number of different ways that differ. I talked with Premier this morning as well, and they have some challenges in some of their more remote communities there, actually using some aircraft and remote people from those communities. And so whatever the challenge might be, it is often met. We have Howard Jorgensen is here today. He's worked with communities not just in this event, but in years gone by. For many years, supporting communities in their evacuation plans that have evolved. We were just discussing have evolved over time as well, with respect to what the province provides to those evacuees in that period of time. I would say a couple of things on this, and part of the reason maybe for the provincial work. One is to raise awareness with not only the people of this province and across this province, because I do fear things are going to deteriorate with the weather that we have ahead of us in the days ahead, not get better until we find ourselves in a 2 or 3 day rainfall event. Two is to raise the awareness as well with the federal government, as us in Manitoba really work alongside one another to support our communities and their residents, and both of us would have requests at certain times for some additional resources, whatever those might be, from human resources to various types of equipment as well. In addition to that, there is, I think, further some opportunities for those individuals from evacuated communities that are unfortunately all too familiar with the challenge of wildfire. But there are many of those individuals that are trained, for example, as maybe a level 3 firefighter. I would have an ask of those individuals is that they identify themselves to their nearest fire base as being available to be deployed in the wildland fire scenario, and they'd be contacted then by Steve and his team to go out and help save the communities in the days ahead. So if there is today is about a provincial declaring a wildfire state of emergency, yes, to support those communities. But one way for individuals that have some training and certification in wildland firefighting, we'd ask that you report to your nearest fire base and identify yourself as available, and we're going to try to find a place for you to, depending on the community response.
You're going to follow up as well, right? Yep. And we heard yesterday Premier Canoe, of course, asked the Prime Minister for help from the Canadian Armed Forces. Have you asked for any additional support from the federal government? And at what point would you also request support from the armed forces?
Yeah, not direct yet, and maybe let Steve or Marlo speak directly to the asks. However, we wouldn't hesitate should the federal government be able to provide us with supports that would most certainly be useful in defending our communities against the fire that we see. And so we may in the days ahead. Part of the reason, again, for moving with the emergency order is to raise that awareness and to start that little more open, broader, serious conversation about the situation that we're faced here in the north. I was talking to a community leader this morning where and Steve, you can speak to this in much more depth, but they actually weren't able to use a water bomber at that point in time because of the smoke cover overhead. And so sometimes the resources that you have can't actually be used in a specific situation, and they're looking for any additional ground wildfire fighters that they could have to keep the fire out of their community. And so every the logistics in every situation is a little bit specific to what's happening, and not only in that day but in that particular hour. But I would say overall, the conditions that we're facing and the conditions that our northern residents, communities, and our wildland fighters are facing today are as severe or quite likely more unlikely anything that we've faced for quite some period of time, if not ever. Steve, you have anything to add to the federal ask that may be coming, or how they could help support our northern communities and wildland fighters today?
Sure. Through our mutual aid agreements, we do talk to all of our Canadian partners. The federal government is involved in that discussion in setting national priorities. So part of it, the discussion is, what is the situation in Saskatchewan? What resources are critical to us being successful? And make that case so that those resources that may become available in Quebec or the Maritimes actually gets here, because we have the pressing need for that resources. So there are resources on one side, needs on the other. We have to make sure that balances. Obviously, as it was noted, Manitoba is in the same boat we are. They are also asking for resources. So at some point, there was some discussion about who's going to get the first 40-man crew and who's going to get the second 40-person crew. And is it something unique that the feds can do, like in Manitoba's case, where they were looking for evacuation by military aircraft? That is not currently a demand that we need in Saskatchewan, so we have not asked the feds for that specific. They haven't asked for federal firefighters, they've asked for military aircraft. So there are opportunities where we can go to the federal government on a case-by-case basis for those specific things.
Maybe I would just add to that as well. I talked to Premier Canoe this morning, and at every level, whether it be through provincial compacts, working closely with our partners across North America, not just in Canada, but across North America, as we have planes and resources in from Alaska today. But working very closely with the province of Manitoba at the political level as well, and offering support back and forth where we can. We're in this together, and not just in our two provinces, but largely in our two provinces. So I spoke with him this morning, and then just prior, I was able to connect with Bucky Belanger, our Liberal MP for the northern part of the province as well, to ensure that he's abreast as to what the challenges are, where we are, and working at all levels of government and interprovincially at the political level as well to support them.
I just wanted to ask about that emergency alert that went out, and the one I saw, it looked like it just wasn't filled out properly. Like there were things in parentheses that just said like jurisdiction. Was it a matter of someone, clicking the send button too soon, or what exactly happened there?
Yeah, we are very, very sorry about that. It was human error. Whether it got hit, we're doing a review and internal review to determine what this was. But we know it caused anxiety for individuals that although the information was in there around Mayakwin, it included the PA region. So we know it was human error, and we're going to look into it to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So I don't know the cause yet.
I would add to that. There's a lot going on across, the emergency services, and that's not an excuse by any stretch. There is a lot going on, and I was made aware of that as I live in the area, so I had a number of individuals reach out and ask if they should solve it. I said I don't think that's the case. So credit to the Saskatchewan Provincial Safety Agency for getting to the bottom of it, correcting it quickly. But there is a lot going on with the 17 very intense wildfires that we have, and the evacuations that are happening. And it's number one for a priority for not just two gentlemen sitting at this table and everyone sitting at this table, but you see leaders on the wildland fighting team in the room as well. I say thank you through them to each of the teams for the work that they're doing. I say thank you as well to the community leaders that are doing a tremendous amount of work on the ground in communities across the north, whether it be in evacuations or battling back the wildfires right on the very front lines. And I just thank you to so many that are supporting them.
Then you mentioned, I don't know if I misheard, but you said something about you had an incident with a drone, or what made you make that announcement about the drone?
We did have a report of a drone in the area, Creighton area, the Manitoba fire in that area. So it resulted in a mission being diverted in regards to safety until we could confirm that the buzzer was not there. So it's just, again, just reminding people that, drones are dangerous for interrupts our operations. We have a lot of dedicated pilots and individuals that are trying to suppress and protect communities. These incidents, they don't need to happen. And so again, it's just a reminder of individuals that do own drones, which many people do, is not to fly them near wildfires because they do cause a hazard to our air operations. It could cause either damage or yet to bring a plane down. So it's very serious, and kudos to our individuals that spotted it, because it's all about the safety of those that are trying to save those communities.
Hi, Regina from Daily Herald. My question is, Premier, are there any updates on the decisions for financial aids for evacuees or those who lost property?
With respect to financial aid reimbursement,
Yes.
maybe Marlo, you can speak a little bit to how that works, how we support evacuees. Is unfortunately this is not our first time in this situation, and myself in previous roles as Minister of Environment have been in this very situation as well. So there are protocols and policies in place. As we were talking, Howard, they change from time to time. And he was informing me of some changes we had made a while ago that I was not aware of. But maybe you could speak a little bit to the support center.
The SPSA has a emergency support unit that works with families or individuals that are displaced due to any incident, but in this case wildfires. We do supply financial aid while they're out. And when this does come to an end, there will be is there insurance coverage? Is there disaster ability for individuals to apply? There's a whole process, but that is after the fact. So for the short term, we will definitely supply the requirements while individuals are.
Question. A Canadian company, there's a Canadian company who has developed AI-powered cameras that can detect wildfires within seconds and send alerts in real time. Has Saskatchewan considered using this kind of tech to improve wildfire detection and response?
We do have cameras in the north, and we utilize them as one of our many different plans or processes to try to identify wildfire early. And so we are always looking at continuous improvement. As technology changes, we will definitely get that and looking at that is. But right now, we do have cameras that are throughout the spreads today.
Steve, I'd just like, if we could, Steve Roberts, to comment on that. Steve is, has a lot of experience fighting fire alongside at various different levels. And from a time of fire is detected, Steve, for today's conditions, up and going, just, how quickly that occurs, the intensity and the ferocity in which guys out there on the front lines are seeing today. It's something unlike, I won't say we've never seen it before, but it's quite something.
Yeah, and to understand sort of the perspective, detection is one aspect, but all of our response has to be accelerated. So for instance, air tankers must, and right now for their alerts is they must be in the air 15 minutes from when they're requested to make sure that we can get to those fires before this wind pushes them 3-4 kilometers through the timber. And that's what we're seeing now is they go from a ground fire to a crown fire and start moving by wind, 2, 3, 4 kilometers in a few hours. And catching them small is the primary strategy we have. Anything that gets beyond that containment will be a problem. So we are using cameras. We have for a number of years, but we actually have trained technical experts that view those cameras and the data that's in them to assess the risk and the validity of the report, and immediately notifies our fire operations response system. So basically they're doing the verification before response starts, instead of the fact that they have the training and the expertise to do that.
I just have a question regarding drones again. You mentioned the one incident. Has there been any other incidents this past year where somebody's been caught? And then if we need it, would there be any changes that need to be made in legislation to ensure firefighting efforts aren't being hampered?
Well, to be clear, the legislation prohibits that activity. So it's a federal regulation says you shall not do that. Immediately upon a wildfire being identified, the airspace around it is automatically restricted from any air operations without authority. And that includes now drone operations. Interesting enough, this is the first documented case that we had this year, but we are well aware both from the US and from our Canadian partners, they have faced similar situations where they have been prevented from responding to fires effectively because of drone activity. So it prohibits us entering the airspace. You can imagine an air tanker traveling at treetop level in smoky conditions at 260 knots is not going to see somebody's drone until it's far too late. It's too small, doesn't show up on radar. So they pose an extreme hazard. So the only solution we can do safely is to pull the aircraft and then see if we can find. But it could be any number of recreational users. Those users could be just recreationists. It can be media. We've had the request for media. Can we just fly drones up? And our first answer is no. It will inhibit our operation. So incredibly important. I know people would like to see and know if their cabin's okay in those items. But if it's going to prevent the operation that's going to save that cabin, it's probably counterproductive.
And I do have a follow-up for the Premier from my national colleagues. The Trump fentanyl tariffs have now been reinstated by a U.S. appeals court after they were struck down last night. How is your government managing the volatility associated with the changing tariff dynamic?
Which tariffs were reinstated?
The fentanyl tariffs reinstated.
Oh, and so are they going on immediately? Is that what the U.S. administration said?
I believe so. It was from my.
I've not been informed of that, and I am sure if that is the case, the federal government will be informing us. I was aware of the case, however, I didn't. I felt it was more that they could be reimposed should he feel necessity to do so. The fact of the matter is that not only provincial in Saskatchewan, as there have been provincial resources deployed to the border, but there's been federal initiatives and investments made to secure our 49th parallel as well when it comes to fentanyl and when it comes to people that are bringing fentanyl either direction across that border. In my discussions with the federal government on the poisonous fentanyl and crystal meth that is in our communities today is we need to eradicate it and make every effort to eradicate it. And not only is the 49th parallel somewhere that we should be paying attention to, but so are our airports, as well as our cargo ports, east-west cargo ports that we have, and stop that poison from coming into our country, our continent, our country, our province, and our communities. And you've seen very much what we're doing in the way of recovery, as well as investing in additional law enforcement officers with an initiative and an effort to provide an opportunity for people to be all that they can be and aspire to in our recovery journey, but to charge and prosecute the people that are bringing this poison into our communities and killing our friends, our community members, and our families. Hell hath no place hot enough for them. With respect to the potential impact of tariffs, what we are, I would say, experiencing in this province from the U.S. administration is steel tariffs, of which we have advanced a significant amount of procurement through our power utility to really stabilize the steel industry in Saskatchewan, and I would say by extension, even beyond our borders into other Western provinces as well. So we haven't used the power of the purse, so to speak, the provincial budget, but the power and the strength of the Saskatchewan economy to support our steel workers, our provincial steel workers, through a very tenuous time. And so we've brought 10 years of procurement forward into 3 with our provincial utilities to support that industry. It's procurement that's going to happen. It's just happening in a shorter period of time to support Saskatchewan workers. As we move forward, we're very hopeful and confident that the U.S. administration is coming to the realization of the importance of the trade relationship that they have, not only with Canada, but in particular with the province of Saskatchewan. Our largest export to the U.S. is oil, and all of our oil goes directly into Midwest refineries, and if it doesn't flow there, there are people working in refineries in Ohio and Illinois that are not going to go to work tomorrow because they don't have a product to refine. And as through the various missions that we've had to Washington, D.C. and Houston, meetings we've had with Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, as well as Doug Burgum, former governor of North Dakota, now the Secretary of the Interior, I think there's a very realistic understanding of the value of the trade relationship with a province like Saskatchewan, but also existentially with the nation of Canada. That doesn't mean that our relationship with the U.S. isn't changed. I'd say it's changed to some degree for foreseeable future. It doesn't mean that that we are all of a sudden going to start selling, in our case, our $30 billion worth of products that goes to the U.S. to some other country around. But we do need to focus. I want to just highlight one piece that came out of the Western Premiers Conference in Yellowknife, because I think it's really a generational opportunity for Canadians, all Canadians, but in particular those in Western and our Arctic regions. And that was the commitment and support by all 4 Western Premiers and the 3 Northern Premiers for a port-to-port corridor, connecting the ports in the Northwestern Pacific to those in Hudson Bay. Port-to-port corridor that would open up the Asian and European markets, which is an aspiration and a commitment of the new Prime Minister. And I think would really provide the opportunity not only for us to expand the natural resources that we produce, some of them in northern Saskatchewan that are being impacted as we speak, and northern communities and community members that are working in those industries, but to really diversify our trade away from the United States of America as we grow our economy. And so in my elected time, from an economic perspective, this port-to-port corridor connecting the Asian and European markets, whether it be hydroelectricity, whether it be additional rail capacity to Port of Prince Rupert, for example, or whether it be oil and gas, transporting oil and gas to those global markets, offsetting dirtier products from other areas of the world, is the largest single generational opportunity that I have seen for economic success for not only Western Canadians, but the entirety of our nation. And I hope it's one that on Monday, with the visit of the other 2 premiers, the Prime Minister, that will gain full support of all provincial and territorial leaders and full support of the Prime Minister and the federal government.
Scott, if I could, you've met with some Indigenous leaders already in the area. Last night we heard from PAGC demanding more firefighters, Type 3 water bombers, air support, fair distribution for the First Nations. meetings with you and the feds. What of those will happen?
I'd say most, at various levels. I met with Chief Hardlot. I talked to him on the telephone yesterday. Met with Chief Beatty, talked with Chief McDowell McLeod this morning. A number of other chiefs throughout the north, as well as one of the mayors, and Eric, you might have a little data on some of the conversations that you've had, and then as well as the SPSA is constantly talking at every level with communities that are being impacted by wildland fire, by the fire, and communities that are in the line of fire and potentially may be evacuated or evacuated today. With respect to, and I'll just reference a conversation that I've had with Chief Hardlot for a number of months now, and there's some successes in this conversation. It's around training additional, I believe it's type 3 wildland fighters, and having them available for situations on Facebook today. I believe there's 2 additional crews that are working through some of the partnership and the training that is happening with PAGC specifically. And that's maybe a foundation for us to build on in a post-emergent environment that we are seeing here today. In saying that, in our meeting this morning, there's I think some work happening where they'll be certifying some wildland fighters that are firefighters that have their certifications lapsed in the next number of days. And I would include them in the ask that I had with folks that may be evacuated from their community or anyone that is certified as a wildland firefighter to please identify yourself to your nearest fire base. Identify yourself as available and ready to go to work because we do need the resources. Our provincial team does need the resources, and we'd love to know who you are and put you to work sooner rather than later in keeping your community or a neighboring community safe.
Just a quick follow-up question to that. A lot of evacuations going on, hotel room space. We know here in PA is at a premium. We got a number of big sports tournaments going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe just describe process right now. Like, is there work with other cities? Is there work with city officials? Like, how are the you got your 5,000 evacuees we're talking about? Like, is there priority given to them versus the ones that are in the hotels? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, well, that conversation, can happen as we move along now. In particular, that we are under the entirety of the province is under. This is a conversation I had with the Premier this morning. The resources that we have to house people and provide emergency shelter, and how we ensure that those resources are available for people that aren't able to be in their own home. Evacuation. Talking Premier Canoe, they're as well using hotels like we are, and those are filling up. And likely in the days ahead, and this is our fear and why we're here today, is we think in 2 and 4 and 6 days we're going to be in a more challenging situation than we are today. In Manitoba, they're looking at some congregate emergency shelters, for example, in extreme cases. We're going to have to, likely consider all aspects of supporting Saskatchewan residents that may unfortunately have to be evacuated in the days ahead due to the very, very challenging situation that we have in the north. And I would say to those individuals throughout the north is your provincial government is going to work alongside the SPSA and your local community leadership to support you in any way to ensure that you're safe. Unfortunately, to this time, we haven't had any fatalities in the very serious situation that we have. We've lost buildings, but we haven't had any fatalities, and that is our goal to be able to sit here at the end of this and say that as well. So, as we move along and the resources become quite slim, and to your point, there's other activities that are going on that are utilizing some of those resources. Maybe some challenging conversations that have to happen. And there may be some, some supports that are provided that, aren't a hotel, are, some other supports in the way, just because of the sheer numbers that we may be facing in the days ahead. I can't remember the number in 10 years ago in 2015, but it was 15 or 17,000 evacuees that we had to support. And I remember some of the congregate shelters that we had here in Prince Albert, Saskatoon. And, we're not at that level yet today. But as we look ahead through the next number of days, we have to use all of the supports that we have to support our urban residents. And just in that very vein, I would just once again ask, for those folks that are certified, we could use your help. So please reach out to your nearest tanker base and identify yourself, and it's very, very helpful at this point. Anyone else? Good deal. Thank you, everybody. What did you do? Let's go online. Sorry, I forgot we were connected.
Okay. We have Jillian Massey. Jillian Massey.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Out and clear.
Perfect. Awesome. Can you just tell me, we're heading into the thunderstorm season now, and you're going to be combating human-caused fires with lightning. Is this a growing concern that things will get worse before they get better?
Yeah, I think there's an admission here that things are going to get worse before they get better, and that's why we're declaring a provincial emergency. And really, moving in the space of solidifying and securing and procuring any of the resources that we think we may need in the days and weeks ahead. And Steve and Marlo, you may have a comment on the fires that we've seen thus far. We've seen virtually no significant rainfall in the north this spring. Virtually all, if not all, of the fires that are burning, and 17 active that are very problematic at this point in time, they've all been started by us, humans. In some way, shape, or form. Not intentionally, all of them, but quads and other ways. Yes, lightning is an issue in normal years. I think this year it has been human activity that has been the challenge, alongside a very, very dry spell. But there is an admission that things are going to be more challenging in the days ahead than they have been. Do you want to speak just a little bit to fire starts, or did I cover all my technical?
Sure, the trend is right. Out of the 200 some odd fires, at this point, currently less of those are attributed to lightning. So in other words, people have caused these fires, and even with 4 weeks of fire ban and the recognition that there are these large fires that people can see, people are aware of, fires continue to occur. And it's going to be up to the people that not only live in the north, but who visit the north, that need to understand the risk they pose to themselves and others. There will be a time where lightning starts. There's not a lot we can do but prepare for that. But we can make an impact on human-caused fires. It's people hearing the message and following the message to make sure that we do not add or compound to this problem.
Thank you. And then just for my follow-up here, there's been some criticism of your coordination of the resources. Can you tell us how that coordination works? Is it on the ground people or experts sitting in an office? Because we've heard some conversations from people who say they're the ones fighting the fires and they aren't being listened to at this point.
So wildfire fighting is a complex, well-known entity. It is, if I had to relate to it, is managed like a military operation. There's layers of decision-making and communication. Priorities are set so that a local decision is influenced by what is happening regionally and provincially. Resources that are limited will go to highest priorities, greatest risk values, which means it's somebody who asks for a couple extra helicopters or 30 or 40 more crew member may not get them. Does that mean we're not listening? No. Does it mean that they're going to a higher priority destination and threat? Yes, they are. And when we're really short, we will go out, we will find some more resources as we are. Those also will be assigned to the highest priority area, not every area. And what we often see is that if individuals who are in those communities do not see a full, robust government response at their fire location, the assumption is that it's being withheld. And the issue is it's probably just being redirected.
to a higher priority. There's no resources on the shelf. They're all being deployed to support Saskatchewan residents. The situation is extremely fast moving, not only in the local fire that may be in your area, but province-wide. And the challenges, the priority of those challenges are shifting very quickly. I talked with this morning, and they're faced with a fire just literally 200 meters from the canal. Isn't that long ago? That was a different, in the midst of addressing very real challenges that are there. In the last day or two, we had what appears to be allegedly someone light a fire in the Wildfire area, which we had to evacuate last evening. So it's a very rapidly, quick, fast changing environment that we're dealing with. Using all the provincial resources that we can to not only keep the fires at bay and out of the communities, but to protect Saskatchewan residents and even have additional resources in as well from Alaska, Quebec, and support of the broader population of Saskatchewan as well, which I think we're.
Up next, Lisa. Lisa? Okay.
Unmute, Lisa.
Yeah, you might be on mute.
Oh, yep, there we go. I think after 5 years, I'd be able to figure this out. Can you just be a little bit more specific as to what declaring this emergency is going to be able to offer you that you weren't able to do before? I know you've kind of mentioned a few things that might happen, but what resources does this create by calling an emergency?
It higher prioritizes us when it comes to resources that may arrive from the federal government. It also expedites the opportunities that we have to access resources should we need them in the days ahead, whether that be was it 2015 or a number of years ago where we actually had military resources in this very room supporting the North. There isn't a request for that today. However, there might be in the next number of days. And what this provides is that very streamlined conversation to be happening today as to what resources we might need in the days ahead. It allows us to have some pretty open conversations when it comes to procuring additional ground resources, whether it be human resources, whether it be equipment, whatever that might be. And as we find our way into what we fear may be a worsening environment, due to the weather forecast not having rain in it, we may have to have some conversations around, how we are going to house whatever the number of evacuees is, or how we're going to support the number of evacuees over the course of the next number of days, the next couple of weeks, knowing that even if we were to have a significant rainfall event, not thunderstorm event, but 2 or 3 day rainfall event that would help us with our conditions in the north. There would be weeks of work off that in ensuring that these fires are extinguished, and quite often then we would be into the general fire season throughout the summer. So we have some challenges ahead of us in the short term, and putting the provincial emergency order in place really allows us to prepare for what's going to be a very challenging 7 to 10 days at the very least.
All right. And when it comes to the Sask alert system, I know you guys have talked a little bit about the error that was sent out, but we're also hearing concerns that it seems almost ad hoc, that there's not enough people using it or people who know how to use it. There are RMs who didn't realize that they had to sign up for it. They thought they would just be automatically signed up like it is in other provinces. So can you talk about how that's all kind of come about, and if there are any changes that are on the way to fix some of these problems we're hearing about?
The Sask Alert process, all the communities are aware of the process. There's letters that have been sent out over the last number of years. We have worked with communities to make sure that they are aware of how they can either send out Sask Alerts on their own, or should they wish, we can send them out. The community leadership, all the 911 system, our PAS, the Provincial Emergency Communication Center, and we will enter that and send it out for them. There is a requirement to at least register as a community. But that information has been communicated with every RM, with every municipality, and it continues over the years. And we would encourage anyone that is not on the system to reach out immediately, and we will get you registered and make sure that you're on the system should you require it.
Okay, up next, we have a reporter from CBC, Ashwarya.
Hi, I just have a question from my colleague for the Premier. You've said you want a reset in the relationship between Ottawa and Saskatchewan. Do you think Monday's conference is a chance to start that process?
Well, from our perspective, it's already begun. I think you see that in the approach that I've brought to our asks to the federal government to change course in a number of policies. We've been very specific with respect to that, to not only advance and provide opportunity for the Saskatchewan economy, but if we want to look at a strong national Canadian economy, I think we need to realize that that economy is the sum of its parts, which is 10 provinces and 3 territories. So we put forward what we view as changes that need to happen in order to start that new relationship between the province of Saskatchewan and the federal government. Now, on Monday, we're going to come together, talk about not only maybe some of the regulatory shifts that have to happen, but we're now hearing the federal government talk about advancing a number of projects, selected projects, into a 2-year timeframe. The fact that there is a mission that we need to select projects to essentially circumvent some of the current regulatory environment that we have to get those projects to fruition is an admission that the current regulatory environment isn't working. And so that's fine. We will work with the federal government on identifying those projects in Saskatchewan. We have the uranium mine in the north that has all its approvals, should start construction immediately. We have the port-to-port corridor that we, all Western Canadian and Northern premiers have supported. That would open up Asian and European markets, I think would be very high on the priority list. Nutrien is looking at expanding their West Coast port operations, likely going to need additional rail capacity in order for that to happen, and a strong, sound regulatory environment at the production end of the potash industry right here in Saskatchewan, which is the largest and most sustainable potash industry in the world. So in the short term, sure, we can identify some projects and move forward. In the longer term, the opportunity for us in this province, and I would say more broadly for all of Canada, is to put together a sound regulatory environment that doesn't require us to be looking at ways to circumvent it. To put together a strong, sound regulatory environment that is going to allow investment to flow, allow projects to come through maybe an exploration stage into pre-development and ultimately into production, whether it be a mining project, an oil and gas project, or whether it be any of our natural resources, or whether it be manufacturing projects that are being talked about in central Canada. And so I don't know that I have ever seen such an economic opportunity available and lying at the feet and before Canadians than I do today. But I see it. And I think it is incumbent on our federal government to alter course slightly so that we are able to achieve the aspirations of the new Prime Minister, which are to become the strongest economy in the G7 nation. And to become a global energy superpower. And policies matter. And if we are going to actually achieve either of those, we are going to have to ensure that we have a policy framework in place that is going to allow for that investment and allow for that economic success, so that we're able to invest in all the things that matter to Saskatchewan people, like investing in safety of our communities through wildland fire management. And so this is how Canada works, and I would say we have a great opportunity ahead of us. And I hope the new Prime Minister and maybe to some degree a renewed government will take up the mantle and allow Canadians to achieve that strong Canadian economy, but doing so through the 13 subnational economies that we have.
Thank you.
Up next, Jeremy.
Hi, Premier. Just want to understand a bit more as to why military help is not being requested at this time.
So the question about military support usually turns into two pieces. One is from the purpose of evacuation, and that is most commonly utilized and has been in Saskatchewan in areas where there is no road access. Safe road access is more manageable. It is easier and less risky on the people who are being evacuated. And of course, can be staggered. So the most critical people can leave, essential people can stay. If it escalates, we can remove more people from a community. However, in certain situations, and we've seen this in Manitoba, there is no alternative to remove them when they're a threat. And the only way is to move them, a lot of them in a short period of time, and that's going to take military aircraft. In 2015, Saskatchewan did have ground forces brought into the province. They were brought in to support Type 1 and Type 2 firefighters that we have currently, and were assigned to fires that were already contained, partially contained, and the risk had dropped. Military firefighters do not do this as a permanent occupation, so they are never put in the high-risk situations that our trained, experienced people go into. So they serve a similar function as the individuals that the Premier has identified, people with certification skills that can be added as these fires are calmed down, lines are secure, and we can bring people with a lower level of skill, but can definitely assist us in getting these things contained and cleaned up. So in the current situation in Saskatchewan, there is no spot where we would be putting large amounts of military individuals. Currently do not have evacuation situations that require military aircraft.
And that's where Manitoba used them in that evacuation.
Yes.
I thought.
Okay, thank you.
That help, Jeremy?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and lastly, we have Alan.
Hi there. I'm just kind of wondering, with Manitoba declaring a state of emergency yesterday, why we waited a day to declare it here. I'm just thinking in terms of there being finite resources and whatnot. Would it not have been better to try to get ahead of this earlier? We had an idea about what conditions were looking like yesterday. I'm just curious about the decision to wait a day to declare the state of emergency.
I think we need to understand exactly what a state of emergency can entail in the space of opening up resources. It does, I think, fully put forward the seriousness of the situation, not only with the federal government but also with residents, not only from our north but across the province. The state of emergency is being used quite specifically in the province of Manitoba to provide some emergency shelter space. In Saskatchewan here, what the state of emergency actually is coming forward is, one, to elevate that level of concern, but two, to really prepare us for some of the decisions that will likely have to be made in the next number of days. I referenced earlier that many, if not virtually all, of the fires that we have experiencing human caused in some way, shape, or form. Not intentionally all of them, but human caused in some way, shape, or form. It's time for us to have a very serious conversation about, for a period of time, not having ATVs in our provincial forests or in the north. They are starting. I think Marlo referenced roughly about 10% of the fires that we have about, and we just don't have the resources for that to continue until we find a reprieve in the wet. So the state of emergency in the province is really for us to prepare for the coming days where we think things are going to deteriorate from a number of evacuees perspective. Unfortunately, folks that are going to have to leave their community, setting up for maybe the procurement of some additional resources that may be required in the days ahead. And so it isn't about the urgency or the timing of the declaration of emergency. But it's about ensuring that we have it in place so that we have the resources for our wildland fire teams when they need it, but also that the supports are in place for potential evacuees from Saskatchewan communities when we need it as well. And so there's, I think, a significant amount of planning that is going on right now. And some action that you may see, or hopefully, weather permitting, may not have to see in the days ahead that are going to support Saskatchewan residents in affected communities, but I think also to some degree have some impact on us that aren't in those directly affected communities as well. As I think as the wind switches to come from the north, this province is going to experience a smoke cover like we haven't seen in a decade.
Gotcha. And I suppose my follow-up will be for Marlo and Steve here. Marlo, in April of this year, you said the overall picture for Saskatchewan indicates better conditions than we saw in 2024. I'm a little curious as to what changed in that time and why we're seeing such aggressive wildfires this early in the season.
You're right. In April, the forecast, we had a significant snow cover, a relatively slow melt, and the forecast was for regular spring rains. Unfortunately, those rains did not come, and they still have not come. So we went from what we were forecasting as a relatively regular fire season to an unprecedented one, just because we have not had the rainfall, and the precipitation level is not in the future as well. So we need rain.
Were there zombie fires at play at all?
None that have been reported as zombie fires. Like we said earlier, the vast majority of these fires that have started have been caused by human activity.
Thank you.
Responses to a case with respect to someone's engagement with communities.
Thanks, Premier. Just with respect to the few of the communities that I've had the opportunity to engage with on this issue over the last number of days, we've had several conversations regarding some of the concerns they have at the community level, connecting with leadership and citizens of those communities. Obviously, as we parse through the issues at hand, I want to remind people of the importance of not forgetting moments like this, 3, 4, 5, 10 years out, when the fuel source starts to come back, and people need to be reminded, communities need to be reminded that there are prevention methods available through provincial assistance, through federal assistance, to ensure that their communities are safeguarded against potential fire incursion into their communities. Obviously, there's the Fire Smart program that's put through the SPSA, an effective program to ensure things like fire breaks and infrastructure in place to make sure that we don't have issues of fire-threatening communities, or we have opportunities to provide relief for firefighting efforts to take hold. So I want to, again, just wrap up by saying thank you to the firefighters, to the communities that are there day in, day out, supporting those firefighters. I've witnessed it firsthand, being in those communities where you have an entire brigade of people, local citizens there, cooking, providing refreshment, making sure that the needs of the people who are on the front line are being met. So a big thank you to them, and a big thank you to the SPSA and the personnel on the ground, and as well as the local firefighters. Thank you.
And before we end, I want to make one correction. So the state of emergency will be in effect for 30 days and can be extended if necessary. So 30 days. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a safe rest of your day.